I don't know when this is gonna be uploaded, but hopefully it won't be too late to the where like the banner is over. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and just jump into this. Hi everyone, this is Lo-Fi No here, and this is, I'm streaming right now, but you're probably gonna be catching this after I stream or whenever case may be. I just won't be live when this drops. Okay, so with that being said, I wanted to talk about the two banners that we got, the new ones, which is Crano and Venti, and of course Candid. I do want to talk about these three units and say my opinion about the banner and give you an idea of whether or not you should really spend your hard-on primogems on this banner, or maybe put it on the weapon as well. So number one, I want to talk about Crano. So Crano, in all honesty, he's kind of like a mixture of Zhao and Ito. But the thing about Crano is, one, I would say his area of damage is smaller compared to both of them really. Two, he is electro, so it's kind of hard to really get like good damage from him, and it's, in my opinion, it's a lot better to just play other units or pick up Venti. I do want to go into like the trial itself to get a better demonstration. Really, his bread and butter of his kit really is an elemental skill and elemental burst. 100%, once you pop his elemental burst, you want to be using your elemental skill as much as possible whenever you have it up, because that really just keeps it going the whole entire time. So even right here, his very first talent is basically saying this: if you use his burst and then you turn around and uses elemental skill inside his burst, when you see this little eye thing, eye shape around your character, then pretty much you will get a 35% of firing off a 3 dust striker bolt that does 100% of his electro damage. Whoa, my fault. It does 100% of his attack as electro damage. So you want to be using elemental skill and elemental burst back and forth. It's just more beneficial. And then his second talent pretty much just talks about, hey, look, your normals is increased by 150% of your elemental mastery, plus the elemental skill is increased by 250% of his elemental mastery. It sounds like elemental mastery is a good idea to run on him, and just run the standard crit rate, crit damage, and high attack. His burst does cost 80, so that will be a problem. So you want to have at least like 160 to 170 energy recharge to get the best bang for your buck here. So probably want to run an electro character if you're struggling, or simply try to get 160 like I said, or 170 to really get the best outcome. So anyway, let's just go ahead and just demonstrate his elemental skill. It's kind of like Zhao's, but instead of it being like straightforward, or while you're in the air doing it, you just come down. That's pretty much the elemental skill. Now his elemental burst, it looks phenomenal. I think that looks amazing. But as you see, whenever you have your elemental burst going and you have your elemental skill, once you see this little circle thing, you want to then push your elemental skill to then do this big old slash of bolts that you see that's going in a straight line in the enemies. This is when it really pops off, because again, his elemental skill and his elemental burst is the best thing for him. You want to keep rinsing and repeating, rinse and repeating, rinse and repeating with this. Now let's just say you just use the elemental skill and you don't see the circle, then you just do a slam and you don't have that. So I would say it's more beneficial if you use this elemental skill when you have the circle around your eyes, because it really shows the best thing for you. But now I'm gonna start elaborating a little bit about why I don't think he's a good candidate to pick up, probably for especially new players. One, since his character is in Sumeru, and then he's in the second part of Sumeru, which is like the desert area. If you're not at least at Inazuma part, you have a very long time before you're able to unlock his stuff and get to his items or gear or talents, levelings, and all that. So in all honesty, I don't think it's a good idea for any newcomer to pick him up unless you just really just really in love with this character. But other than that, like I just don't advocate for it. I really don't. I think they should add something that makes it to where not free to play, newcomers can get to the unit a little bit better or get their materials better, but I digress. So that's one thing. Two, since he's an electro character, it kind of seems like you're gonna need at least another one to really get the best thing for your buck. The trial area doesn't really show the best thing because they jack up the elemental recharge, energy recharge on him, so I don't think it's a good idea. You do have to have another one, or just simply get a high energy recharge. Also, while I was editing this video, I kind of also thought about that with Chrono being a new unit and you are a new player to get your impact, I would probably recommend you work on any other unit that just needs to be on the field a lot. You really want to work on a lot of your units that revolves around helping teams out or can be used in multiple teams, because at the moment you don't have a whole lot. You only have a couple of units, you only have a couple of characters, and so working your Bennett, Xingqiu, Fischl, and those types of characters are more beneficial than trying to work on a one main DPS that loves to be on the field. It is helpful and it will be beneficial later on, but generally you don't want to be working on that character first. You can easily get away with working on other characters that just work together with any other unit. So with that out of the way, let's just say that you do have Sumeru unlocked and you're able to play it and you get to try out the trial and you're still trying to figure out what you should get him. Ask yourself, do you need another DPS? Since he's really the first ever Electro DPS that just strictly wants to be on the field, I think most people will gravitate trying to pick him up. But in all honesty, there's just a lot of other characters that does his job better. To give you an example, Ito, Zhao, Hu Tao, these characters or these 5 stars can do his job, and it only comes down to whether or not you just want him just to want him because he looks cool to you, or maybe you are just lacking maybe 1 or 2 DPSs that can do everything on the field. Okay, but I will say if you already have about 3 to 4 or 5, do you really need another one? It all depends on you, but this is just my opinion about it. So next thing I want to say is Candace. It's like a hit or miss with me. And honestly, I think Candace is a really good unit, and I think every character is a good unit. But the problem is she's kind of like Changyun Bennett with the C6. They're very niche, I will say. Characters like that requires you to turn people's normals and charge into a element is really niche, and it's only really gonna work with units that need their normals and charge to be that certain element because they use that element already. To give an example here, I have C6 my Bennett because I just didn't care. So I C6. Now that I C6 him and I have Diluc here, I have fire on my normals and my charge, and this helps my Diluc tremendously to keep up his pressure and his pyro damage up, especially since he's also running the artifacts Crimson Witch. And so with that being said, unless you're gonna get a water unit that does the same thing or can get the same damage value from what Candace can provide, then I don't really see her character that beneficial. I will say it is a good thing that her elemental skill and elemental burst is max health, I'm pretty sure, and I am gonna like make her 90 and probably do like a more in-depth video on her kit, but that's later on. I would just say, one, I just don't think she's worth it. In all honesty, like I think it's just better off if you hold off or simply you go for someone else, unless you just really like to use water units and you're thinking maybe they're gonna finally release a main DPS water unit that just strives on the field. I think we do have one, which is Ayato, but even then not so much. So until then, I don't really see her kit being that useful. But I will say, let's just say you don't want to do that and you still want to just play her and think that teams will work with her. Yeah, 100%. Right now, I'm using her as the support for my Rosalia because I make her as a main DPS, and it's fun to use. Like, it works. So it all depends on how you want to use her, but I think in all honesty, it's not a good idea. And then finally, we got Vinci. He has been in this game since day 1. He still is really good since day 1. You can't really go wrong with him in all honesty if you just don't have him. I would say definitely if you don't have a Vinci by now, pick him up. Unless you just have a lot of animal characters or you have Kazuha already. Other than that, I will say definitely pick him up. His burst is what makes him and is the selling point of him in all honesty. So that's really the best thing about him. I don't really have too much to say about him other than that. I'm glad I made this video. So to add on to the Venti thing, I would definitely say for newcomers, definitely pick him up. Like, easy to get, easy to work on. His stuff is still in Mondstadt. Most people have Mondstadt done by now, okay, or of course you're just not starting in there. Not just that, if you just don't have a lot of animal characters and you're looking for a character that can just control with a good, simple AoE that can just demolish a lot of things by just popping his burst, you can't go wrong. And my dumb tail did not pick up Kaza. That's another reason. So if you didn't pick up Kaza and you're looking for a really good AoE, pick him up. I'm probably not gonna pick him up because one, your boy's not trying to waste no money, and on top of that, I'm not going to even mess up my guaranteed for the next unit that's coming out. So with that being said, I'm gonna let the video play out. I personally wouldn't summon on either of these banners because I don't need them other than Candace, and I just wanted to try her out for fun. But other than that, yeah, that's my take on the banners. And the weapon choice, I don't know, it's kind of a hit or miss, not gonna lie. Probably pick up the, I would actually say the spear, in all honesty. Hold on, let me read the spear again. I would say pick up the spear because one, you get crit rate, plus two, it talks about elemental mastery, and since we're in like the Dendro area and the meta right now, I would highly recommend anything that gives you elemental mastery. And they're going to be making a lot of Dendro characters and releasing water units to go right beside them and trying to make electric users more prevalent because of all this. Definitely would pick it up. I'm just saying it's a good idea, but only do it if you have the money to do so. Don't spend and don't drop your hard-earned money if you just don't have it. Now the two other 4-star characters, Sayu and Koki, yeah, I don't really recommend it. They're good, but in all honesty, they're not all that. Definitely would say it's just better to go for other units and don't waste your time. So overall, I would probably say this banner is not a good idea. For both, I would probably lean more to Venti if you just don't have a whole lot of animal characters or you're needing a really good AoE animal character. But other than that, that's about it on the banner. Catch you guys later whenever I post another thing.